I think that we all deserve more winter, to be honest, Mar. There's a call for a deeper winter in all of us because most of life and modernity tries to keep us in spring and summer. It's this constant doing and this dissolving or this really ignorance of the fact that fall and winter even exist. There's almost an aversion to winter and fall. And I think we can flip the script on that by just saying, welcome back to the podcast, y'all. It's Josh Trent. This is Wellness and Wisdom, where we are nourishing the 5 sides of ourself. This is a lens we can look at life through that allows us to think and be differently. The physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial ways that we either starve ourselves or nourish ourselves. This is an AMA, and today's topic is very special because we're recording this in the winter, and in the winter, it's a time for introspection. Mar, how are you doing in the winter? How is winter treating you so far?
So far, I've been sick for over a week now, so I'm in the process of recovering, process of nourishing my body. And you've been telling me this whole time that I'm going through a process of genetic upgrade. And it's been pretty hard for me to conceptualize it because it's hard to understand why it's an upgrade when I'm feeling so bad. And it just feels like a downgrade more than anything. So can you explain that quickly for our listeners too?
Yeah, what we feel is not always what we think it is. That's what I'll start with. Like, I learned this actually from Dr. Zach Bush the first time I interviewed him ever. It was this Facebook Live in the middle of pandemic, and we got like over 1 million views, and it was this incredible Facebook Live because people were locked in their homes and, you know, doing all the Fauci activities that now he got found out aren't actually true and not scientifically validated, which is a whole nother podcast. But Zach shared with me, you know, what we all should have done is gone out and gone camping together and circulated this thing as much as we possibly could. Because when we get sick, and that word is interesting because, you know, Dr. Thomas Cowan and Alex Zeck, they have their views on terrain theory and virology that their opinion is that viruses don't exist, which I'm still getting clear on. I don't exactly know if that's true or not, and I'm open and honest about that. I'm still figuring that out. But what's most interesting is when we get sick, it's a time of stillness and introspection, and it's a time for us to actually be honest with what got us, quote, sick in the first place. So when we get sick, it's a genetic upgrade because our body produces antibodies. There's this immune response that actually makes us stronger, right? I think Zach had told me on the podcast, there's like trillions of viruses, like more viruses than we could ever even count. A number so vast that we could never even understand how large the number is. Like, I think he said like 10 to the trillionth viruses in the world. And those viruses always change. So we can't control our outside environment, right? The only thing we can control is our lifestyle practices, our sleep, our stress, our water, our food, our self-talk, our narrative, our EMF, things like that. So I believe, I truly believe that this is an empowering way to describe the reality of when we get sick is actually a reality of a genetic upgrade or a genetic liberation, because our behavior is most likely what got us sick in the first place. We're either hanging out with people that are energy vampires, we're eating seed oils, we're not drinking clean water, we're not getting enough time in nature, we have a really self-deprecating self-talk. There's all these different things that make us, quote, sick. And they're all just teachers, actually. So I noticed myself personally, when I get super sick, I've had a long journey with my sinuses in my life. And my sinuses have taught me that they're actually a barometer. When I feel my sinuses start to get clogged, or when I feel myself about to get sick, I have the wisdom now at 44 to actually stop. Where before I might like mash the gas pedal down and keep going. But now I have the wisdom to feel when I'm about to get sick and to stop the train in its tracks. Instead of learning through pain, I can learn through wisdom, and I can pause and just move meetings, move my responsibilities to as much as I can. Sometimes, you know, the hard part about this is sometimes all people get sick, and that's okay because there are certain times where, you know, we're going to talk about the seasons today on this AMA, how to honor the seasons of your life to live your dream. And I would say the majority of the time we can all honor the season of our life with our choices. We really can. There are certain times though where life presents us with summer or spring activities that must be done in the winter, and vice versa. Sometimes we need to get introspective in the spring. We'll talk about winter, spring, summer, fall, and the way we can interface with these and get real wisdom, not just from the Native Americans, but from all cultures today. So I think that's really it, Mar. It's like when we get sick, it's actually a time for us to take inventory and be clear about what got us sick in the first place. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious.
I feel like for me, it might still be unconscious because I'm not really aware of what I've been doing wrong, quote unquote, but maybe there's been a little too much stress for me. And I feel like I don't really have that much stress in my life, but maybe in this season, there was a little more than usual. Maybe I was spending too much time in front of the screen instead of being outside. So yeah, there's definitely things that personally I still get to look at to actually understand why this is happening.
I just love our language today. You know, language is something that creates our reality. So I love that you said I get to, because a lot of times, and I've seen a lot of podcasters do this. They'll say things like, I should, I'm going to try, I maybe, I kinda, I sorta. When it comes to honoring the seasons, you're either honoring the season or you're not. There's no trying to honor the season. You either are honoring it or you're not. So what if I told you this? What if I told you that if you feel stuck, or if you feel like life isn't working out in the way that you planned it to be, that it's not a failure. It's actually just a season that you need to honor. And actually not even that you need to honor, that you get to honor if you don't want to get sick. Because anytime that we need to do something or we should something, there's a shaming energy there. So what am I saying? In this podcast, we're going to go over resistance to the seasons, what the seasons are, how to align yourself, and really how you can use the wisdom of these seasons to live your dream, right? Which is the title of this video, of this podcast. So let's start with the winter season. Winter season, we're in it right now. And I don't know about you, Mara, but I love winter. It's actually really fun to get cozy and like be by a fire, and I can wear warm clothes. It's cool. I really like it. Some people just live in Hawaii and they're like, I skip all the shitty seasons. I just want to live on an island, you know? But not all of us. Yeah. Okay. So, and you like to surf, but surfing in cold water is pretty fun. And there's beauty in the winter.
I feel like winter season is teaching us something too. And not just as a season, but also the temperature of winter, which for me, I've been avoiding it my whole life. I was always like, no, I'm never going to live somewhere that's cold. Right now where I live, it gets chilly, but it's not as cold. Like there's no snow or anything. But even surfing in cold water, it teaches you a lot. So sometimes I have moments when I feel cold and I start sort of hugging myself to feel warmer. But when I do it, I feel like I tell my body I'm cold and you need to get out. And I started noticing there's certain behaviors and kind of like unconscious things that I do that make me feel even colder. And so when I stop doing that and I stop focusing on the cold and I just let it be cold and it's just a sensation in the body. It doesn't really mean that much. It's just discomfort. And when I just let it be, it feels like I can just let go and be in the cold, like accept the cold for being cold and not being bad.
Yeah. I remember when I used to surf, I would get cramps in the cold, and that would be my cue to go in. Which is funny because we're going to talk about winter, which is inward. So, you know, life has these seasons, and I love the seasons because they each bring us unique wisdom. I actually learned about these seasons from Anahata Ananda in Sedona in 2018. And the Native American culture has the seasons that they honor with behaviors and foods, and also the medicine wheel, which is a profound concept of just like walking the medicine wheel to get true on what's real for you. And so if life, just like nature, moves in seasons, the winter, spring, summer, fall, how can we look at nature and design our life and the way we think and the way we behave so that nature is actually this beautiful teacher for us? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So winter, we're in winter right now. We're recording this AMA in winter. Now, the cool part about winter is that it's a time for reflection and recharge. So that's on the screen right now. Reflection and recharge. This is your winter wisdom right here. When you stop fighting against the season that you're in, I really believe that your dreams are going to unfold because you're not wasting energy fighting what's real, what's around you. Here's a quick story because this relates to me in winter. A question I ask myself in winter that we all get to ask ourselves in reflection and recharge. what is a story or what is a belief or what is a thing that you get to let go of? This is what winter calls forth for us, right? The trees at my house right now, the entire pool is covered in leaves. I mean, I'm like, I didn't even know that many leaves could come off of a tree. There's like a foot or 2 feet thick of leaves over like 50 feet. It's insane. The trees lose their leaves so that new leaves can grow. That's really beautiful wisdom from nature. What is a thought, or what are thoughts or a belief or a way of being or just something in your life in winter that you can let go of? Because when you let go of it in this time for reflection and recharge and introspection, it's going to afford you the seeds that you can plant in the spring. This is so beautiful. I mean, nature is always teaching us. I'm so floored by the wisdom of nature that is so easy to forget in modernity because we're so complicated and we depend so much on technology that it can disconnect us from nature. So this conversation is really important because, Mar, just like you shared about surfing and letting yourself be cold, there's wisdom in the cold. There's wisdom in the cold because when you're cold, nothing else really matters until you get warm, right? And then when you get warm, you can ask yourself, okay, what is something that I get to let go of? What is something that I get to let go of this year? That is a prompt for all of us. One thing that I'm going to let go of, that I'm in the process of letting go of, is a narrative around my body image. So when I was young, I was very overweight. We were raised on welfare and my mom did the best she could, yet the foods were not high quality because that's what the government would pay for, like Velveeta and Kick cereal. And so I developed very poor eating habits as a child. It exacerbated into weight gain and sinus issues and antibiotics. So there's still a residue of that memory. And so I'm in the process of walking my timeline, cleaning up my memory of these thoughts. You're never going to be fit enough. You're never going to look good enough. And you're always going to be fat. These are things that I'm letting go of in my winter season at 44, because as I let go of them, it frees up space for me to plant new seeds in the spring. And this is the wisdom that we all get to share, is that wherever you are, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. Just moving to an island or moving somewhere new is not going to change who you are. It may over time, but it's not going to immediately change who you are because you still bring your stories and your unconscious beliefs and your narrative with you. So that's my story that I'm sharing, that I'm letting go of this winter, right? And I'm sharing that with vulnerability because that's the whole game. The whole game is vulnerability. It's the entire point of it all. So rest and reflect, recharge, give yourself some space to go in. That's why a bear hibernates. Bears hibernate for like 3-4 months and then they crawl out and they're like, I'm hungry. What do I want to do with my life? You know, that there's so much beauty in the wisdom of winter. Winter has so much beauty. Like, look at what happens to the Yellowstone Park, or even Yosemite in California. It's just blanketed in white. All the animals, all the plants, all the insects, everything just goes down into the earth and goes inward. We get to do the same. And if we don't, it's no shame. But if you fight that season, you're going to have to pay it later with interest. If you fight the winter season of introspection and you try to do it in spring or summer or fall, when other things based on the Native American wisdom and all cultures' wisdom are called forth to integrate, it's going to come with interest. Have you felt this in your life where in the winter you were trying to do too much and you got sick, or you were trying to do too much and you realized that, oh, I actually don't need to do so much. It's winter. Have you felt that before?
I really feel like I'm just learning to honor seasons right now. And so I used to be that person who traveled to escape something, and I didn't know that. I was just like, I'm traveling to live my life to the fullest. That was my idea. But looking back now and seeing like those were my 20s and I had issues that I didn't know about and I was trying to escape them. That's what it was. Like, yes, it was fun while I was doing it, but at the same time, there was something much, much deeper that I wasn't aware of at that time. So my escape was going to the tropics, Central, South America, the everlasting summer idea that was my biggest dream when I was a kid, and just running away from the discomfort. I think that's what it was, because for me, cold is very uncomfortable. I really don't like it, and I'm learning to not love it, but to accept it for what it is, as I was saying before when I surf. So right now, where I'm living on an island where the winter gets slightly cold, it's a little chilly, but still no snow or no freezing temperatures, get to finally honor the seasons, for summer being hot and autumn being a little colder but still very comfortable, and then the winter being chilly, and me going inside, going inward, spending more time alone and just getting cozy, getting warm. And it's really new for me. So I've made this decision that winter for me is going to be more of this, just winding down and going slower and letting things just evolve naturally without much force, without searching for things like in the summer where you always trying to go out and be outside and meet up with friends and just like be as active as you possibly can to take advantage of the good weather. But winter is being indoors. And for me also, although you said that it's not about doing as much, for me, it's about actually getting to work on the things that I didn't have time to work on during summer because I was outside so much.
Yes. And then after you've gotten clarity, deep clarity, winter doesn't mean that you don't do any work, right? I mean, there's going to be some work in winter. Yet I think the work really is on the inside and in the clarity that we're getting for our vision. Last week on the AMA, we talked about something you shared vulnerably, which was this aversion to going to the gym because of fear of judgment of others. And I'm sure by the time people have heard your voice and now watched this, that you've probably been in the gym once and it's probably happened and it's amazing. And so the way we can reflect on winter is the spaciousness that's created to plant seeds in the spring. And so the question is, what is something that you've wanted to do for so long when you're in the spring? And what is something that you're waiting for it to be perfect for before you do it? Like, this is our second time recording this AMA, because the first time I forgot to hit power. I forgot to hit record. And it's beautiful because if we wait, y'all, till we have everything mastered, till it's perfect, till everything is exactly going to keep us pseudo safe, we'll never do it. You'll never launch the podcast. You'll never launch the program. You'll never go up and talk to the cute guy at the coffee shop. It's never going to happen. So just get clear in the winter, use that clarity to move forward and plant seeds in the spring, right? Do not wait for it to be perfect. We talked about this last week. Perfectionism is actually fear wearing a jacket. Okay. So get clear on what you can let go of, especially perfectionism wearing a jacket. Summertime is powerful. So on the screen right now, there's like, either Mars surfing or somebody at the beach, right? There's this image of summer, and summer is so great because summer is actually what you put into action. Now is when the hard work starts to tick up and you embrace the challenges that the universe, God, is bringing you. Take time to express gratitude. When you're in the summer, take time to express gratitude, reflect on what worked and what you've learned from winter and from spring. You planted seeds in the spring. Those seeds are growing. They're starting to flourish. Now is the time to eat the berries, to eat those summertime foods, cantaloupe and melon and things like that. In the winter, it's very important to eat nourishing foods. You don't want to be eating light in the winter. You want to be eating foods that provide you long-term nourishment, like soups and porridges and bone broth, things like that. In the spring, you want to be eating what the spring foods are in your native region, right? Maybe it's legumes, maybe it's nuts or seeds, maybe it is some animal protein. Definitely in the winter, you want to eat animal protein for sure. At least that's my view. I know, Mar, you're vegan or vegetarian?
Still vegan, yeah.
Vegan. Vegan has a very interesting take. Because when someone feels their constitution is great, then you could actually adjust your lifestyle to eat vegan all year long, and it could work for you. It obviously is working for you. But I would say for most people that have their own unique constitution on the whole, eating animal protein and eating more healthy fats in the winter is so good for you. But then once it comes to summer, it's really easy to eat light because in summer, it's warm outside. You're at the beach. Maybe you're just out in the field, you're working. Like, this is the time to really take action is what I'm saying. So there's foods that we can consume during the seasons that are in harmony with nature. And then there is ways of being or ways of thinking. So summer is like, get to it. Summer is when you want to take action. Now, when it comes to fall is really interesting because the trees start changing color. There's this premonition of what's coming, which is winter, right? The cold is coming. The winter is coming. So it's about preparation. It's about, okay, what have I done this year that's so amazing I can actually reward myself? I gave myself gratitude in the summer. I learned what worked and what didn't work. Now, how can I actually reap the rewards of all of my efforts? How do I bring in the harvest? How do I bring in the squashes, the pumpkins, the zucchinis? How can I eat these foods that are so beautiful in the fall that actually are in the wisdom of nature because they grow so plentifully, right? They're just out there for everyone to harvest. That's why the harvest time, Thanksgiving, and whether you're in alignment with Thanksgiving or not, from a political standpoint, is none of my concern. But really what I think Thanksgiving is like honoring the harvest. We've worked through winter. We've worked through spring. Now we're in the summer. Then we're in the fall. Like we've worked a lot. And so in the fall, it's actually this preparation for the inward time. So here's something actionable that's on the screen right now. Take time to express gratitude and reflect on what is really working for you that worked in the summer and what are the lessons that you learned by supporting yourself with people that loved you, by learning the people that didn't have your best interest in mind. Like what's the wisdom that's wanting to come through in the fall? What's your favorite fall food to eat? Like what do you love to eat in the fall when leaves change colors? And
pumpkin soup. I think that's
pumpkin
like
soup is good.
Yes, it's amazing. It's like the most comforting, delicious food. It's so healthy and warm. I think that's like the fall meal.
I love it. And then when we eat these foods, it actually brings us closer to nature. If we didn't have grocery stores, have you ever thought about this, Mar? If we didn't have grocery stores that brought us like avocados in the winter and raspberries in the winter from like, Peru or wherever they're coming from to the United States, we wouldn't be eating these foods. So there is something to pay attention to here in the wisdom of Native American culture to honor the seasons of your life and to honor the foods that match those seasons. Write in the comments below or send us a message, podcast@wellnessandwisdom.com. If you resonated with this, share what season you're in. Like what season of your life do you feel like you're in? They may or may not be perfectly aligned to the seasons of nature because like I said earlier, sometimes life presents us with summertime activities in the winter and vice versa, right? Every season has its purpose. Winter is preparing you for spring. Without rest in the winter, you cannot grow. There's no way you can grow. So align yourself with the rhythm, the circadian rhythm of the sun and the moon, and also the way that the earth spins, which creates the seasons, and give yourself some grace as you navigate this space. It's a lot. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of things going on in your life. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Connect with those. Allow yourself to be inward as you're watching this in the winter or whatever season you're in. I think that we all deserve more winter, to be honest, Mar. There's a call for a deeper winter in all of us because most of life and modernity tries to keep us in spring and summer. It's this constant doing and this dissolving or this really ignorance of the fact that fall and winter even exist. There's almost an aversion to winter and fall. Yeah. And I think we can flip the script on that by just saying, okay, I know my dream's not going to happen overnight and I'm going to give myself patience to see this thing through. So let us know in the comments, what did you learn from this? Maybe this is the first time you're hearing some of these concepts. And what do we miss, Mar, when we look at the seasons? How have the seasons informed you in your own life? What's the wisdom that you've learned from the 4 seasons?
Well, I like to look at life like as many different seasons. So we've talked about the natural seasons, but there are so many other seasons that when you say, for example, like waiting for the perfection to get something done, when you're 17, you're not going to be ready to do the same things when you're 40. And I feel like there's so many other seasons. For example, there's seasons according to the chakra system. So like every 7 years of your life, you go through a different chakra development. So like until you are 7 years, you're developing the root chakra. And then you move like 7 to 14, you move to the sacral chakra and so on, so on. So you're also moving on the scale of energies and how you're developing each chakra as you get older, which is really beautiful, I think. And something that I believe many people don't know about. And I feel like when you're at that specific age that's corresponding to a certain chakra, I think that could help us develop on a deeper level these things that we're struggling with, and we're not realizing we're going through this 7-year cycle that's actually calling us to look at one specific area of our life.
See, y'all, just when you had it all figured out, you watched the 4 seasons video, you now know exactly how to honor all the seasons of your life and live your dream. Then Mar just throws the curveball in about the chakras. It's okay, because actually this is beautiful. There's always new wisdom to learn. And the more wisdom that you learn, the more you apply it and embody it, which is, it's on the screen right now. We gather, which is what we're doing today, right? You're gathering wisdom from the seasons. Then you apply it. You actually practice being in harmony with the seasons. And then eventually you embody it. And when you're really embodied in your wisdom, you don't have to be in such an incessant hurry to get information and gather stuff all the time. You can just be open to new wisdom. So don't let what Mar shared be a reason why you can't honor the seasons. And just when you're ready for that, when you're ready for the chakra system and for that to be integrated, and you've done enough work on the 5 sides of yourself and on honoring the 4 seasons, then look at that wisdom. Don't use the new wisdom as a reason to not integrate the wisdom that you've already been shared with. Just don't do that, because that's actually a path for overwhelm. And it's something that Mark Groves talked about on the podcast, where he went to the ayahuasca ceremony. Do you remember this? Yeah. And he was like, I was given this wisdom, and then I went back and ayahuasca said, you didn't do the wisdom that I shared with you. You didn't integrate it. I'm not going to give you any new wisdom. So, all right, y'all, please leave your questions. joshtrent.com/AMA. We'll play your voice live on the podcast. You can also write us at podcast@wellnessandwisdom.com. So until we see you again, another AMA, I'm wishing you love, wellness, but most importantly, peace and power. We'll talk with you soon.